So I'm excited to welcome up our keynote speaker for this morning, Daniel D'Andrea, who is Senior Account Executive Marketing Solutions Education at LinkedIn. He's here to speak on digital identity development. Dan D'Andrea partners with top universities to improve the quality of their student recruiting and to empower students to build their professional identities on LinkedIn. He has 15 years of experience in digital media, working with advertisers in higher education, finance, philanthropy, and tech. His current role includes maximizing ROI of university student recruiting budget, building best-in-class creative, and developing innovative ways to leverage and connect data. D'Andrea's professional passion is contributing to LinkedIn's economic graph mission, which is to leverage data of our digital representation of the global economy to connect the world's professionals with economic opportunities. Dan's personal passions are developing awareness of the dangers for children with food allergies and supporting his local hospital's neonatal intensive care unit. It's my great pleasure to bring up and welcome Dan D'Andrea.
Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? Excellent. So, going to talk about building your empire today, obviously on LinkedIn. So, I don't watch much TV anymore these days. I haven't for about the last 4 years or so. And it's not because I'm on LinkedIn 24/7. It's not because I'm obsessed with my career. It's not even because I'm reading books at night. Quite simply, it's because I had my first kid about 4 years ago, and since I've lost all control of my living room, all control of my nightlife. So when I tell you I'm using Breaking Bad as the theme for today's talk, you'll understand why my TV tastes are a little stale, and I hope you'll play along. Any fans of Breaking Bad in the room? Good to hear. If you're unfamiliar, it was a show about 4 or 5 years ago, went off air about the same time my first baby was born, so it'll be a little bit sprinkled throughout. I could use a show that I'm more currently watching. SpongeBob's Krabby Patty Empire hasn't quite taken off yet. So we're going to stick with Breaking Bad and looking at how we can build our empire on LinkedIn. So for us to start, it's important to understand where LinkedIn started. 2010, we were known as more of a job site. It's where you could go to find out if a colleague had a work anniversary. You used to get dozens and dozens of emails asking you to invite your friends. To where we are today, which is much more of a habitual destination. It's your profile, it's your professional representation, it's where you go to gain knowledge, connect with colleagues. Essentially, we went from professional digital resume to your digital reputation. So the first step is building a profile, and we're going to talk about this in 6 elements. Karina had some very kind words for LinkedIn, but I do want to take a quick poll of the room. Does anyone in here not have a LinkedIn profile? Come clean. We have one in the back. One brave soul. I would imagine there's at least 1 or 2 more of you. Oh, 2, 1 in the front. So it is free to build. It's quite easy. I'm going to talk you through some of the basics. Profile picture is the first. The users with a profile picture get 9 times more connection requests, 20 times more views, 36 times more messages. So first step to building your profile, don't be shy, put your picture up there. And second is to make sure you have a headline. The headline is one of the least used aspects to a LinkedIn profile, but it's extremely valuable. If you have a recruiter or somebody searching for Columbia graduates or somebody in your field, they're going to look at your picture, your name, and your headline. And they're going to look at it for, on average, about 6 seconds. 98% of the world's recruiters are using LinkedIn Recruiter. So you want to make sure you're making an impact in that 6-second window. So be bold, say a lot with few words in your headline. Don't be wordy and drone on, like this Walter White quote. Instead, be this Walter White quote. Be bold, be audacious, be to the point. So I'm going to use our friend Hassan here to look at his headline. So he's obviously not lacking any confidence with his headline. It shows an immediate passion. It shows that he's aiming high. It shows what's important to him, all in, 8 words. So you know what Hassan's all about before you even scroll down and look in his profile. Second is your summary. So this is kind of the next step of your headline. Now you can take a paragraph, 2 paragraphs to explain a little bit more about who you are personally and professionally. Again, showcase some passion, showcase some personal interests. Don't talk about where you are now, talk more about where you want to be. In your education, don't just say, I graduated from Columbia in 2018. Make sure you detail your degree, detail some of your accomplishments. People with a detailed education profile get 22 times more recruiter messages. So make sure this is something that you invest some time in beyond just your graduate year. Your work experience. This is your digital resume, but you do have a little bit more room for creativity. So again, detail some accomplishments. If you have a professional resume, you see Hassan here has actually included some media. So you can see a little bit more of his personal taste, his personal flavor. And then as you go through his experience in his current role, he's not shy about listing all of his many accomplishments. And as you scroll down, you'll see more and more media about stuff from this week he's already been posting and his accomplishments from the past. And skills. Skills is something that we've actually only launched just a few years ago. And it's taken off like wildfire. This is now the #1 thing recruiters search for, is really specific skills that match what their company's looking for. And it's something that LinkedIn is really doubling down on. One of our goals is to help fill the skills gap. Globally, there's 6 million people unemployed and roughly 6 or 7 million available jobs. So if we can work together to kind of bridge that skills gap, we can start reducing the number of unemployed professionals. So you see Hassan here lists some of his top skills from which his colleagues are endorsing him. And he goes into detail about a lot of the skills he's employed throughout his career. And you may not know Hassan is skilled in content strategy and recruiting and resume writing. So on the face, again, of his profile, you may make assumptions based on his job title. And you see he, again, isn't shy about listing all his areas of skills, but it's not him being braggadocious because he's being endorsed by hundreds of people. So if you don't have skills in your profile now, make sure you get them in there. And then finally, this one is a little bit more of an advanced class. Yep. No?
So do we need to post as much as more skill labels as possible, or just highlight it, maybe top 5 or top 3 skill labels in your profile? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, any area you consider yourself skilled. So if you see Hassan here, he has probably 40 or 50 different skills. This isn't open to user input. LinkedIn does have a database of skills. It's quite wide, so you're not, it's not going to say like, can recite the SpongeBob SquarePants song, but it's going to have skills that you would need to beef up your resume. So if you have the skill, put it in there. Alert your network to ask them to endorse you for it. So yeah, don't be shy. And on the vein of don't be shy, so on LinkedIn now, anyone has the ability to long-form post. This is, again, a pretty recent release on our site. This gives recruiters, hiring managers, potential partners or coworkers another layer of input into who you are as a person. So write about your passion. This can be kind of like a second cover letter if you are in the job market. If you don't have any inspiration for what to write about, you can write about your favorite show. Builds are a little slow, but as you can see, I promised you it was a popular show at one point. Very popular. So we built our profile. Everyone in this room is now considered an all-star. How does it work? What do we do next? It's important for me to call out what LinkedIn's, as a company, what our purpose is, what our vision is, for you to understand really how to best leverage it. So our vision globally as a company is to create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. To further illustrate that is our economic graph. So the goal here is to connect every white-collar professional with every company, every available job, and then connect them with all the schools to obtain the necessary knowledge and skills to properly acquire and perform at those jobs. More simply put, connect the world's professionals, make them more productive and more successful. So when you think about LinkedIn, think about it in that scope. How do I connect with more people? How can I be more productive in my current role? How can I be more successful in my career? Really boils down to these three sort of functions. Connect, obviously build your network. Stay informed. I mentioned up front that LinkedIn has really turned into a professional content platform. So we're going to talk about how you can best leverage it in that vein. And then get hired. If you're currently looking in the future, or always just kind of keeping your toe in the water, talk about how to stay relevant. So first, connect. The world's professionals. That is a powerful statement that I've kind of breezed over a few times. We're up to now 530 million white-collar professionals in the world. We estimate there's about 2 billion. Considering we don't have a huge footprint in China, you can understand that we have more or less a stranglehold on the world's professionals. So take advantage of that opportunity and build your empire. A couple of ways we can go about doing that. So the people you may know tool, extremely valuable, especially if you're just building your profile. This is going to use some LinkedIn algorithms to suggest people that you may know based on your education inputs. So it's going to show alumni. Based on your work experience, it's going to show current and previous coworkers. It can even pull in your email contacts. So first thing you should do, go to people you may know, start connecting with those that you have a professional relationship with. And the second is go to your school's alumni page. So you can see right within this alumni page, you can filter by where they live, where they work. If somebody who graduated from the same school as you has the role that you're looking to obtain, reach out to them, use them as a resource. Just as importantly, become a resource for other alumni as well. But don't be that guy. Don't reach out to everyone. Don't try to connect with anyone. Don't send 50 cold emails a day, copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. Don't be that guy. Make sure it's a relevant conversation, somebody you've met, somebody you know, a mutually beneficial outreach. So content. This is my favorite part about LinkedIn as a user. If your familiarity with LinkedIn is more of that jobs platform, you should really spend some time in the newsfeed at LinkedIn. It really has become a content destination. So again, all of the inputs you've made to this point are going to shape the content that's curated for you in your newsfeed. Your newsfeed is going to look different than mine and everyone else's in this room, based on your experiences, based on your aspirations. You can see there on the right-hand side, there's trending news, all professional. There's not going to be a Kardashian in there. There's not going to be something about the Super Bowl parade. It's all professionally relevant content. And then you see on the bottom right there, suggestions to add to your feed, again, based on your network, based on what other people are reading. Then you can start following brands, follow companies like LinkedIn, follow schools like Columbia, follow publishers whose content you tend to enjoy, tend to be interested in. So you can start really customizing your newsfeed. And follow people. So anyone in this room can be followed if they're posting long form. But we launched this program a few years ago called Influencers that I think really put LinkedIn on the map from a content standpoint. So you can follow people like our CEO, Jeff Weiner, like Arianna Huffington, people who are really movers and shakers in their industry. And what you're going to see them post on LinkedIn isn't something just regurgitated from their blog. It's something specific for the LinkedIn audience. It's something timely. So do yourself a favor and follow some people you admire and really increase your network of influencers. And then the final element of the knowledge piece is LinkedIn Learning. So this is very new. If you're not an active user, this may have kind of missed you. So we acquired this company called lynda.com about 2 years ago, who was the leader in the online learning space. So now LinkedIn has this ability to identify skills gaps for you personally and recommend which skills you should be acquiring. So again, based on all those inputs we've done already to your profile, your experience, your interests, your job preferences, LinkedIn Learning is going to recommend which courses you should be taking to start to build those skills. If you start building your profile, you're listing your skills, you notice I only have 4 or 5, I don't have a lot of skills that are pertinent to this job I'm applying for, go over to LinkedIn Learning and you can acquire those skills in real time. And again, you see some of the courses that are recommended for me are going to look vastly different than the courses recommended for you. And this is a fantastic mobile app. If anybody in here is a commuter, you can download a course. I get 3 or 4 of them done in a week. So we have an all-star profile. We know how to use LinkedIn. We know how to network. Now we need a job. So anybody in here who is in the job market and doesn't have LinkedIn's jobs downloaded on their phone, saved on their desktop, that's something else you need to get on ASAP. So 2 reasons. First, obviously any white-collar job is going to be posted on LinkedIn. And as you can see here, you can simply click apply. You don't have to write a resume. You don't have to write a cover letter. Your profile acts as that. But the second important piece to mention that I've kind of noted a few times is all of those inputs we've been making, all of our LinkedIn activity is going to support you as what we call a passive candidate. So active candidates are those in the market actively applying for jobs. A passive candidate is someone who's happy where they work, but they probably represent 75% or so of the pie of workers. And until LinkedIn, this was a pie that recruiters had a lot of difficulty tapping. So make sure that even if you're happy in what you're doing, make sure you are being the best passive candidate possible and always filling out these profile details. That's actually how I got recruited to LinkedIn. I was happy in my previous role, but I was a LinkedIn power user, and LinkedIn actually recruited me based on my activity on the site. When you go to the jobs page on LinkedIn, you're going to find a lot more than just jobs. You can see your salary compared to your counterparts geographically or with a similar experience level. If you are applying to jobs, LinkedIn is going to tell you how qualified you are versus the other applicants and give you an idea of where you stand. It's also going to set you up for career advice. So it can literally connect you with someone who's looking to be a mentor in your field. So you see this example here. Nelson Castro is a social video expert, a producer, content consultant. He has an experienced career, and now he wants to give back. So say you're someone who's looking to be in the same kind of career as Nelson. He's waiting for you to just click start a conversation, and he can start mentoring you through your journey. All of these sort of tools and tips are built out, downloadable content at university.linkedin.com. Navigate to the For Students portal. You'll see job tips, profile tips, how-to guides. Basically, the opportunity on LinkedIn is endless. You just have to be the one who knocks on the door. So with that, I'll pause for any questions, but thank you for your time.
Hey, thank you so much for your remarks, your comments. Just a very quick question. I recall hearing at some point that there was a limit to the number of outbound connection requests that you could make. And I've also noticed that periodically on LinkedIn, it asks me if I want to basically connect to everyone from my email, for example, because there's a correlation there. Is that still the case, that there's a there's a total kind of limit around that? Thank you.
Yeah, so that's our way of stopping the "that's guy" slide. So we don't want people to just sit down and request connections for hundreds or thousands of people. At this point, even if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, we can probably assume that you don't have a network of 1,000 people. So we're gonna stop you from making too many requests. You may get blocked for a month, and if that's the case, you can reach out, tell them what the deal is, and they'll unblock you. But yeah, there's a limit to the amount of requests you can make in a certain time frame. There's also a limit to the amount of in-mail you can send. So we want to keep LinkedIn kind of spam-free. We don't want it to turn into your personal email where, you know, anybody that gets a hold of it can email you, solicit you for a job, solicit you to buy something. We want to keep LinkedIn clean of that, so we do limit the amount of outreach.
Hi, I'm wondering, is there anything that you would see on a LinkedIn profile that would just throw up a huge red flag right away, and just something you think people should just avoid putting on entirely?
I think it's more a huge red flag is what you don't have. Like if you looked at my profile, I have a few like no-nos on there. Like my picture is me posing with another person, it's Ric Flair. And I've been told internally a few times it should just be you to avoid confusion. But, you know, like I said, LinkedIn it doesn't have to be just this stoic, boring environment. There is a personal side to you as a professional, so don't be afraid to show it. Some things that would be a red flag, I do a lot of interviewing people to work at LinkedIn, and just like a vomit of buzzwords is something that really turns me off. You know, people write to, you know, what they think people want to hear instead of writing what they truly believe. So that's one big thing that would turn me off. But otherwise, it's more what's not in there than what is. If you're applying for a job and there's no picture, there's no headline, there's no summary, that would be more of a red flag. Hi.
Hi, thank you. I have a question about the skills. So my background is in strategy, and when I was listing the skills, there was like business strategy, strategic planning, strategy. So I kind of felt if I check all of those, it's redundant.
Sure.
So what would you recommend on just the terms?
Check them all. You know, again, if you are active or a passive candidate, so you remember, I mean, anybody my age or older remembers the days of a printed resume, and recruiters literally used to scan them and do Control F and look for skills. And they would Control F strategic planning. And if it didn't come up, then your resume got thrown in the bin because you didn't have that on your resume. It's kind of the same deal on LinkedIn, where a recruiter is looking for someone with a specific skill set. So if you consider yourself skilled in business planning and strategic planning, put them both just to cover your bases, but also I think it kind of just like Hassan's profile where he has tons of skills. That in of itself is impressive, and it's equally impressive if you're getting endorsed for them. So I would say put up all the skills you have and just make sure that there's some numbers behind it so it doesn't look so redundant.
Hi, thank you so much for your compelling talk. I actually have a question related to that. So Mark Steele, one of the influencers on LinkedIn, he basically helps professionals with their public speaking skills and create a more holistic profile for people who didn't know. He shared a post recently about building your brand on LinkedIn and touched upon many of the key points that you did. He also spoke about creating multimedia content on LinkedIn. So if you think that's a skill that can be acquired and is necessary to reach out to people for just building your brand in a better way, do you think one can do that? And could you talk more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Hassan, how difficult was it for you to post the media to your profile? Not very? 2 minutes. It's pretty idiot-proof, to be honest. I don't consider myself technically savvy at all. I can post media to my profile quite simply. So if you want to put media in there, it is as easy as it would be to attach something in an email. if you want to up-level your skills in multimedia in general, navigate over to LinkedIn Learning, type in multimedia. I can pretty much guarantee you'll find a good half dozen or more courses that you can complete in less than an hour and beef up that skill set. But it's all pretty easy enough to do on your phone even. How you doing?
Good morning. So I had a question more towards the application and applying using the LinkedIn resources. So I've noticed that using LinkedIn to fill out applications tends to be kind of hit or miss. Yep. For the most part. So what are some like general recommendations to make that more accurate, more consistent?
Yeah, so in my opinion, this is a little bit of a weak spot, a little bit of a hole, because a lot of companies, when they're posting a job, they stick to their application method that doesn't always, jive with LinkedIn profile. So if you click apply, it's not going to necessarily automate all the information. In those situations where it doesn't automate correctly and fully, unfortunately, you're just going to have to take the necessary steps to fill out the rest of the application. I'm not on that line of our business, but I have heard talks of trying to really push companies to meet those standards for it all to be more simply a one-click. So I would imagine that's somewhere we're going to be soon. But for the time being, yeah, you're going to have to just double-check that everything was automated properly.
Just coming back to the multimedia, could you comment on some best practices for like the video length or how often you're sharing articles, if it's original content or you're pushing out interesting things?
Sure. So to share content, it isn't Twitter or Facebook. So you don't want to come off as someone who's just posting. Post when you have something to say, post when you have something interesting to share. So I wouldn't limit yourself. If that ends up being once or twice a day, then that's fine. If you post at noon and you and I are connected, I don't go on LinkedIn until 4, odds are your post is buried by then anyway. So don't hold yourself back, but understand this is a professional news feed, so don't comment about your dog or about your weekend, but don't hold back if you find something interesting that you think your network would find interesting as well. And then in terms of video, LinkedIn is mobile first. That's 62% of our sessions. So I don't believe I mentioned that earlier. So the same thing goes with summaries and headlines. Think about somebody reading this on their phone or watching it on their phone. An hour-long video, nobody's going to sit through that on their phone, just like they're not going to read a profile summary that's 10 paragraphs. They're not going to read a post that drones on and on. So it goes double for Twitter and Facebook, but also on LinkedIn, think mobile first when you're posting.
Well, first of all, thank you for coming. My name is Ricardo. I'm part of the Enterprise Risk Management Program. And I have a question about the products that LinkedIn provides. So I realize there's a business account, a business account for like $30 a month. Yep. There's a professional business. And would you expand of what the benefits are for those, type of accounts? And should we get it? Should we not? What do you recommend?
Sure. So premium subscription, it basically just allows, for what we were talking about earlier, you get cut off on a certain amount of connections, you get cut off on a certain amount of requests, so that'll turn that off. It'll allow you to be a little bit more of a power user to make connections and just go a little bit deeper into the platform. So if you are in the middle of like a really heavy job search, a lot of sales professionals use it to build their network with their customers. There's a different variation of that called Sales Navigator. So it's not something to start your career that I would recommend keeping all the time, but certainly there's heavier points where you're going to look to be networking, look to for a lot of people for advice, especially if you want to connect with alumni. So yeah, I would recommend it during those heavier periods. And on the the university.linkedin.com, there's a couple of one-sheeters that just details exactly what you would get with the subscription, and I think even has a couple of stories of those who have it.
Morning. So yeah, thought it was a little interesting and funny that you mentioned LinkedIn as being free, considering all the sacrifices users have to make in regards to their data and privacy. And looking at your mission, it's great. It's awesome. I believe in it, but I really wish you guys weren't a for-profit company. I think your mission would be a lot stronger. So I was wondering if you could speak on the monetization of LinkedIn in regards to a more user-focused and service-based company.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we're not going to go not-for-profit anytime soon or ever, I can say confidently. So, LinkedIn has a couple of different business units. So we have our recruiter licenses, we have their sales navigator licenses, we have advertising, among a couple of other things, premium subscriptions. So there are a lot of sort of lines of business at LinkedIn. And if it wasn't for those lines of business, I probably wouldn't be here talking, because that's how LinkedIn pays employees. And a not-for-profit company, I would assume they couldn't get quite the amount of engineer talent that LinkedIn, Facebook, Google, Twitter get. So especially in that engineer space, it's highly competitive. So in order to continue churning out new products, especially mobile and desktop, those are the type of people that really command a high salary that I don't think will ever be represented at a not-for-profit. I do understand the pain point. You're on LinkedIn, you're being advertised to. LinkedIn takes a lot of security measures in terms of user data. Like any company, we've had some breach scares over the years, but that's something that we pride ourselves on as being a safe space. So, if you can deal with the occasional advertisement, that's my world, and that I can tell you anytime you're being advertised to, it's based again on who you are. So most often it's going to be something you're interested in anyway. But yeah, long-winded answer short, I wouldn't cross my fingers that we're going not-for-profit. But I appreciate the question.
Hi, Daniel. I'm Alexander. I'm from the Strategic Communication Program. I've noticed that there have been a lot of individuals sharing their personal struggles at work on LinkedIn. While there's been a lot of support for the humanization of professional endeavors, there's also been some criticisms as to how LinkedIn should be kept a professional environment. And I'm just curious to know what your opinions of that are.
Yeah, one of the kicks I get out of LinkedIn is the LinkedIn police. That we don't employ. They're self-employed, self-identified. As with Twitter and Facebook, and especially on LinkedIn, I talked a lot about how your newsfeed is curated to you. But the same thing goes with any social networks. If you're seeing something you're not particularly fond of, or you don't think it has a home at LinkedIn, you can quite easily turn it off. I go back and forth on whether I want that type of content in my professional newsfeed, because it is a personal story. I like to see the personal side of professionals, but I think if we're thinking about what we individually are going to be posting, post something that you think other people can gain something from, not necessarily just interested in. So I think that's what kind of set the LinkedIn police sirens off, is even though this may be interesting, I'm not getting anything out of it. And that's what the high bar is on our platform, of those expectations. So unless you enjoy those social media back and forths like I try to stop myself from doing, but I would say just get a kick out of it and just keep scrolling, and you'll find something you're interested in within a few posts.
Hi, good morning. I'm curious what your recommendation would be for a career switcher, whereas the previous experiences are not necessarily related to the current career job search, but and that might mess up the search algorithms, but by hiding and eliminating that experience from your profile would kind of eliminate that years of experience that a professional would have?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't hide it. I don't think in 2018 we are any longer in a place where it's frowned upon to job hop or career switch within reason. I often interview people who aren't from the space that they're applying for, and we like to see well-rounded people with a different perspective. So I wouldn't hide anything. One little secret at LinkedIn is, especially if you're just starting, even if you're not actively pursuing job opportunities, is to go to the job section and edit your preferences, and you can say what you're looking for. So if you're currently a professor and you want to be in marketing, as a recruiter, I could see that you're in search for marketing jobs. So that's the first thing. You edit those preferences, and that'll kind of change the sort of activity you're seeing on LinkedIn. And the second thing is connect, is network. So I showed you the option to, my clicker got turned off, to find a mentor. So go to the LinkedIn job site, find somebody who's in the field that you're looking to get into, reach out to them. Like I said, they're waiting for people like you who are looking for advice on switching careers. So make the most of that sort of opportunity. But definitely don't hide anything.
Hi, thank you for being here today. I have a question about what would you see is the biggest challenge for LinkedIn in the next 5 years? Thank you very much.
Yeah, great question. So it really depends on what sort of business we're looking at. Is it a challenge from a revenue standpoint or a challenge from a user standpoint? From a user standpoint, I would say it's the same challenge that is probably keeping Facebook and Twitter executives up at night that hasn't quite hit LinkedIn yet, and that's kind of the dawn of fake news. So our platform has done a good job of sort of self-policing. So that's where the LinkedIn police come in handy. So those sorts of articles have made their way to the platform, but it's very rare because our algorithm brings in top professional content, but we also have an editorial staff that curates which content gets there. But that's something that, as a platform that is focused on the news feed, focused on mobile content, that's something that I think that needs to be solved across all social and digital channels, but I'm sure LinkedIn executives are starting to get a little nervous about all of the technology advances and that sort of thing. All right, one more question, and then later today, we will have some profile booths, myself and some colleagues, answer any more questions, or help you build a profile to the two that don't yet have one.
So, hi, Daniel. Thanks for your answers. Because I study risk management at Columbia University, so I'm quite interested with whether you have any systematic approach or policies to manage the authenticity of your accounts.
Yeah. Again, we've really gotten fortunate of the type of network we've built. I know I've said self-policing as an answer to 3 of the last 4 questions, but we don't take the same steps. I think we will soon. We don't take the same steps as like Facebook to dual authenticate, like with your cell phone. If I put on my profile that I'm the CEO of LinkedIn right now, I bet you before I sit down, I'm going to get turned off and a few dozen messages. So the platform does a really good job self-policing, and then we have a team of people who are just ensuring the user quality, the user accuracy, and again, other users will report that as well. All right, thank you again, and once again, we'll be at profile booths a little bit later today to answer any more questions. It was a pleasure. Appreciate your time.
Well, let's keep that round of applause going for Dan. Thank you so much. Our keynote